person. She's a nut job.
Now, here's the millennial with the mic.
Grace Curley.
Grace Curley.
Grace Curley.
Grace Curley.
Grace Curley, host of the Grace Curley Show.
Grace Curley.
But I've always said that the most talented people, and this man may be the most of all, Michael Crawford is being honored.
I don't disagree with anything Trump said about Michael Crawford. He's a very talented soul, and we're very lucky to have him on the show. Mike Crawford from the Young Jurks joins us now. I want to start, Mike, with Mayor Wu, because she has been all over the news this week, including national news. She's been egging on ICE. She's been, saying that we are not going to cooperate, or the city of Boston is not going to cooperate with AG Pam Bondi. And she is claiming to know who Boston is. This is not who we are. This is who we are. And all of this other nonsense. And it's generated a lot of news. Todd Lyons was on with Howie earlier this week, and he said that ICE is now going to flood Boston even more. But the other interesting part of all this, which you've really taken an active interest in, is that she's running against Josh Kraft, and she did something recently that you think is a telltale sign that things might not be panning out well for Mayor Wu. Dive into that for us.
Well, it's interesting because the polling shows she's doing pretty well, 60% support. But she brought up Josh Kraft, her main challenger, right before this prelim, which is going to decide the final two candidates, and then the November election. So pretty sure it's going to be Josh Kraft versus Mayor Wu in the final. And she's bringing up his name about campaign contributions and tying it to the Trump administration. And to me, it's an example of eating your own, because these are Democrats, these attorneys that she's going after. She's asking them to return the Kraft campaign, to return the contributions. And it's interesting, the whole angle of it, because even the fact that she's bringing up her challenger, it's a sign of weakness. And it looks like she's running a national campaign and not really talking about what's going on in the city of Boston, the real issues that Josh Kraft is bringing up. I don't think he's talking much about ICE. I think he's talking about potholes in the road. I think he's talking about bike lanes that aren't set up in the right way. I am not anti-bike lane, but some of the bike lanes are just kind of a joke in Boston, and they're not even safe for the bicyclists. So there's a lot of issues that he's bringing up, the local issues that matter. And she doesn't seem to be addressing those, and she's bringing up his name, which I think is a sign of weakness. I don't remember Mayor Walsh bringing up Tito Jackson in a press release asking Democratic fundraisers of his to have the checks returned. I just don't recall that happening. I think it's a sign of weakness. I think that all she has to run on is Trump, 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 Trump. And it may work for her. It may work. It seems like it's working, but we'll see. November's a long time, and Josh Kraft is focusing on Boston and not Donald Trump.
Yeah, and it should also be noted, Mike, that while she's going after Kraft and demanding that he return contributions from a Trump-affiliated law firm, she's been under fire before. In fact, the Daily Caller, one of their reporters, published an investigation saying that in her bid for a second term during her first campaign in 2021, she received hundreds of thousands of dollars from a fundraiser who was listed by a Chinese intelligence agency as an official. So she doesn't really have a lot to stand on when it comes to where, this fundraising money's coming from.
Definitely. She's got much more of a war chest and much more to dig into. And I think Kraft's response was basically doing that. And he's not returning the funds. I love that he said, no, absolutely not. I'm not returning the funds. And, I know you said they were Trump affiliated. They aren't even Trump affiliated. These are Democratic, big time, big money lawyers who Trump didn't like. And Trump did some sanctions against them, and Bob Kraft was a client of theirs. The NFL is a client of theirs. So Bob Kraft jumped in and set up a meeting between them, and they worked it out. And that's basically what it is these are Democrat lawyers. They're turning on their own. This is another example of Wu. It's like the purity test.
Yeah.
It's all about Trump all the time. Nothing else matters. And, I think the biggest thing for Josh Kraft that he has to overcome is he's the son of a billionaire. But beyond that, I think he's hitting all the right notes. He's talking to the people in the neighborhoods and finding out what they actually care about. And I don't think most people are focused on Trump when it's a mayor of Boston race. Maybe the ICE thing will bring them out. Maybe people are really upset about that. We'll see. But I think that it shows the weakness of Wu. She doesn't have much to run on except I'm against Trump.
Yeah, and I think that goes for a lot of Democrats, but you're absolutely right. It's tough when you're in a mayoral race, if that's what you're depending on. All right, Mike, we got to switch gears here to one of the stories. You were the first person I had on when this story broke. Let's talk about Stephen Tompkins. Give people a rundown on where we're at right now. I know that he left federal court after pleading not guilty to allegations that he used his position to extort a cannabis retailer. This is from Boston.com. You were the first one to talk about this on our show, but let's give people a little bit of an update on where this is at now and where you see it going.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the big headline, that he pled not guilty to the federal extortion charges. And his lawyer said the facts will demonstrate that he was charged with a crime that he did not commit. So he's going with that. If you look at the facts of the indictment, I think that's going to be a tough road for him. But you can clearly see that's where he's going. And I don't think any of this is surprising, considering some of the past ethics violations he's had. He's been in trouble before. And it's just, geez, man, I don't see how he thinks he's going to beat a federal indictment when they have what they have. They have the witness. They have things in writing. They had the meetings. They had the money get exchanged. He got his money back. Like, there's no explanation how you get your money back when the stock went down. So how do you explain that? How do you explain that you got your money back without it being extortion? So I think he's in a lot of trouble. I think that he's going to try to. The interesting thing is, you have the governor basically saying, well, I'm not asking for his resignation at this point. You know, they ask for people's resignations all the time. This guy has been federally indicted. The paperwork's there. It looks like a good case against him. You know, he should resign. He should be asked to be resigned. That's really what's infuriating me. It's the governor, again, being a coward. And I think it's about votes. I think it's about his voting coalition that he has behind him.
Yeah, because otherwise this would just be a complete no-brainer. It's also very interesting who's representing him and how that has a tie-in to Karen Reid. Martin Weinberg, who represented Karen Reid in federal appeals, is his lawyer. So we will keep everyone updated on this. But Mike, since we're talking about cannabis, I also wanted, and I didn't run this by you before the segment, so but I'm sure you've been keeping up with it. This Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission audit. What do we know? What were the takeaways here?
A lot of favoritism, dysfunction, a lot of what Shannon O'Brien had tried to clean up, and she got forced out. She's got a lawsuit going. I'm interested to talk to her again. I've had a lot of conversations with her on and off the record about the Cannabis Control Commission and the dysfunction, and a lot of what she called out is actually being exposed. I thank the state auditor, Diana DiZoglio, for digging in. There's issues with payments in terms of them giving preferential treatment to the big cannabis companies on their licensing fees. You know, there's all kinds of, even employee issues at the State Cannabis Control Commission, where they did, astronomical payouts to employees for all kinds of allegations. So there's so much dysfunction within that organization, and infighting and people fighting for control and power. So Cannabis Control Commission needs top to bottom. They need to be reformed. And there's also testing issues with these testing companies. I was one of the first ones to call this out, with employees getting sick and even customers getting sick from the products, and testing fraud. And that's been exposed over the last couple of years as well. So there's a lot of issues with the Cannabis Control Commission and legal cannabis, unfortunately, in the state of Massachusetts.
And I have one more question for you, Mike, because one of the big local stories here is Gregory Groom, who was arrested for allegedly murdering his pregnant girlfriend. He's suspected of doing that. And it's interesting because when you read about this and you find out the investigation that went into this, you actually retweeted someone who posted, once again, the state police showed that they are fully capable of doing proper investigations and using the CERT team to look for clues, just not when the obvious signs point to a couple decorated dudes inside Brian Albert's house. So talk to us about this investigation, because it seems like when they want to, the state police can actually do a pretty good job.
Yeah, and quickly. Look how quickly they arrested him and actually found the body. I mean, I think that's the big thing. I want to applaud the state police for this, because they got that family closure. They didn't know what happened to their daughter. He ended up bringing them exactly to where he buried her. So they can do a good job when they need to do a good job, when they want to do a good job, when they're not conflicted. And I think that is the issue so much with the state police. And I think that's what the colonel has to deal with, is how do you deal with conflicted police who are not investigating the right way because they're friends of the suspects.
Yeah, really well said. Mike Crawford from the Young Jurks. Everyone follow him at the Young Jurks. It's JURKS. He's keeping up with everything local in Massachusetts. And if you are familiar with the state, then you know we have plenty of craziness here for him to cover. There's never a dull moment for Mike Crawford. Plus,